Hello, my name is Stephanie Blevins, and this is Biology 103.1. And on today, we're going to talk about monocots and dicots. We're going to talk about their differences. We're also going to dissect a flower. We're going to talk about the male reproductive structure as well as the female reproductive structure. And this is a monocot flower, so we'll talk about that a little bit later on. Here are some examples of monocots. Monocots, we have some onions, we have some corn, we have some rice. These are just basic examples. Dicots, we have a tomato, we have apple, we have some lettuce, and we have strawberries. So now let's look, monocots and dicots. The characteristics that give these groups their name is the number of cotyledons. Monocots have a single cotyledon. Dicots have two cotyledons. The difference starts from the very beginning of the plant's life cycle, which is the seed. Everything starts from the seed. Within the seed lies the plant's embryo. Monocots have one cotyledon, again, and dicots have two. Monocots differ from dicots in four distinct structural features, and that is their leaves, the stems, the root, and the flower, the roots and the flowers. If we can look at this little diagram right here of corn, it kind of shows the structural cycle of a monocot. Corn is a monocot, and it kind of gives you the layout. It gives you the seed coat, the endosperm, the leaf, and we said that the distinct features was the seed, the leaf, the flower, and the roots. And if we look at the roots of the corn, which is a monocot, versus the roots of the bean, which is a dicot, they're very distinctive. They look totally different. And then if we look at the stems and the leaves of the dicot and the monocot, we can see that there is a distinct difference there as well. Now we're going to move on to, let's talk about this real quick. Characteristics of monocots and dicots. In a monocot flower, the parts are in multiples of 3. In dicots, the flower is in multiples of 5 or maybe 4. The leaves in a monocot have smooth edges, often narrow, with parallel veins. And I don't know if you all can see the veins in this leaf. And in the dicot, leaves are palmate, hand-like. So if you look at the palm of your hand and you look at the lines in your hand, it kind of resembles the dicot, the leaves on a dicot. And then if we look at, so those were the leaves, that's the flower. And then if we look at the stem, if we look at this stem, the vascular bundles are arranged in a ring around the stem. And if we look at the ring, I don't know if you all can see that, but there's a ring that goes around that stem. And in this one, they're just, if you can look at the difference, they're scattered on the monocot. Everything in there is just kind of scattered throughout the stem. But on here, it kind of goes in, like in a ring, like in a circle. And then if we look at the roots, the monocots have a fibrous root system. And if you see how the roots sprout out in the monocots, and if you see how the dicots, how the roots kind of just, almost kind of like it just goes straight down. And then we have the seed, and inside the seed we have the embryo, and we have the cotyledon. Embryo and the cotyledon. Remember, in the dicot you have 2, so you can see 2 stems coming down right here, and then from the cotyledon. And in the monocot you only see the 1. So now we're going to move to the structure of the flower. We're going to dissect an amaryllis flower. And again, I'm going to point out the male reproductive structure as well as the female reproductive structure. I pray that I get this right. Okay, here is my plant, right here, my flower. If I can get it out of here. All right, what we got? Okay, and this is our amaryllis. And what I'm going to do to kind of point some stuff out, I'll use this little board, and as we go through this, we'll talk about the structure of this. So the first thing, so let me just pull that off of there so we can see. So we have a petal right there. If we look at these little things here would be part of the male's reproductive structure, and it produces pollen. And then we have, if we look at these stems, we have the supporting stalk, and then the little piece on top is called the anther. And I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but it is spelled A-N-T-H-E-R. So again, we have the stem and we have the anther. And then in the middle, right here, is part of the female's reproductive structure, this little piece right here. And I'm going to pull some stuff back so we can get down on the inside. This is so interesting. I never looked at flowers like this before. Never knew that they were had all of this stuff going on. But if we get down in here and we look right here at the bottom of this thing right here is called the stigma, which is the sticky tip. And this right here is the style, the S-T-Y-L-E. And as we get on down into the plant, these are the ovaries that contains the ovals. We talked about the seed of the plant, and we talked about monocots having a single cotyledon. And so again, we have the petals, we have the sepal, the S-E-P-A-L. We have the supporting stalk for the male, and that is pretty much the parts of the female reproductive system. You have to have an ovary, and then you have the elongated stalk of the female reproductive system. And if I can just read some of this while you all are looking at that, it's so interesting. Never knew that a plant had ovaries and all of that type of stuff. But it says that most plants combine the male and the female reproductive structure in the same flowers. The male structure is called the stamen, and it includes the anther, which produces the pollen, and supporting stalk. The female, which is the female reproductive structure within the flower, is called the carpel, and is made up of the pistil, which has an enclosed chamber called the ovary, which this down in there is that ovary at its basis, containing one or more ovals in which eggs actually develop, extending from the ovary and a sticky tip, the stigma. And this is Monocots and Dicots. It went off? You still recording? Oh. And this is Monocots and Dicots. Again, these are my examples, and I hope you understood my flower and how it all comes together. I destroyed a beautiful flower. That was beautiful. But it is very interesting, the things that you learn about plants and that you learn about flowers. So just remember that monocots differ from dicots. They have 4 distinct structure features, which are the leaves, the stems, the roots, and the flowers. The monocots have a single cotyledon. Dicots have 2 cotyledons. I'm sorry. And again, the characteristics that give these groups their name is the number of cotyledons that they have. Cotyledons that they have. Thank you. My name is Stephanie Blevins. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something. And see you soon.